Chapter 13, Alexa Brenner. A hand on my shoulder wakes me. My heart races from two realizations. Raylene isn't beside me, and someone else got close enough to touch me while I was sleeping. Behind me, Sandra smiles cheerfully. Good morning. I turn back and bury myself into the pillow. Groaning, I state a rhetorical question. You're a morning person, aren't you? The mood changes of Sandra are enough to make my head spin. Yep, now rise and shine. Breakfast is ready and waiting. Raylene's washing up and getting hungry. We all are. So if you don't get up now, we might just eat your share. Sandra grabs the covers and pulls them away from me. I sigh when my stomach growls at the wrong moment. Sandra giggles after obviously hearing my stomach protest. Fine, I'll get up. Dragging up my body from the bed, I get up and greet Sandra face to face. I have to use the washroom. I'll be down in a bit, I tell her. Right, I'll meet you downstairs. We walk out of the room and split at the washroom. I relieve my bladder and wash my hands. Grabbing some toilet paper, I dip it into the cool running water in the sink. I wash the raccoon effect off my face, making sure to leave the makeup that stayed in place on my face. I touch up a little bit with the makeup in the drawer. Satisfied, I head downstairs. Raylene is sitting at the table with her back to me. I sneak up to the chair and her attention occupied on Ram, bringing her a plate of food. Approaching her chair, I bring up my hands and go in for the pounce. Hi, Alexa, chimes the little girl in front of me. Oh, come on, there's no way you could have known I was there. Who gave her the hint? I look at Sandra, then at Ram. Ram's smooth voice defends both of them. We didn't hear her. We didn't give her any hints, I swear. Maybe you were just making too much noise. I counteract that statement as I sit in the chair next to Raylene. I could have sworn I didn't make any noises. You did, Raylene tries to assure me. I heard you flush the toilet and then you stomped when you came down the stairs. Reaching over to her sides, I tickle her on the ribs. She laughs. Squirming in her seat, I try to pry my hands away from her. Squirming in her seat, she tries to pry my hands away from her. Taking pity on her, I let go and return to my proper place in my seat. Now that I've stopped, Ram sets a plate of food in front of Raylene. Pancakes covered with chocolate sauce, strawberries, and whipped cream. My eyes widen a bit. So after all that sugar you're feeding her, you're going to look after her today, right? He chuckles. Nope, sorry, that's your department. I have a few things to do today. Darius wants me to see if I can collect about how... Darius wants me to see what I can collect about how Miles escaped last night. Ram brings me my plate. I stare at it before picking up a fork and taking my first bite. It's very delectable. Thank you, it's very good. You're welcome. You can hear the smile and pride in his voice. Ram's a very good housewife. Sandra's input is quickly cut off by the male she's speaking about. Hey, that's not nice. And the only reason why I had to become a good housewife was because you would have killed us by now with your horrible cooking. If you can even call it cooking. Sandra sticks her tongue out at Ram as he gives her a plate. Raylene and I finish our breakfast before Ram sits down to eat his own. I get up from my seat and take Raylene and my dirty dishes to the dishwasher. I look out the window, and the deck is the only man-made thing I can see from here. Beyond are the grass and trees. A beautiful natural view distracts me for a couple of moments. Views like this can't be seen from the city. Something moves in throughout the trees. Focusing on the shadowed figure as it comes closer, I determine it's a deer. It cautiously comes out of the trees, gazing on the grass and bathing in the sunlight. A breeze picks up, the ears on the animal perk up and twitch a couple of times. It stops eating and brings its head up. In a split second, a deep red blur, the animal is gone. Leaning on the counter, I try to search for the deer, and what took it? Both have disappeared. What are you looking at? Jumping at the sudden, womanly voice in my ear, I put one hand on my chest as if the action could slow my racing heart. Turning my head to Sandra, I tell her what I saw. Something big just swooped down and took the deer. What did it look like? She comes to the counter and looks out. I didn't see much. It was just a red blur. I try to think of anything to describe it, but I can't. She looks outside a little more. Really? Already? That was fast. It must have been a dragon. A dragon? Sandra nods her head in confirmation. Really? Those exist too? How the hell did you guys hide dragons all these years? People are one thing. They can learn how to disguise themselves over the years. The ones that don't already look human. But dragons are huge. How do you hide something that big? An animal with a mind of its own that can fly large distances. She laughs at my reaction. Easy. All you need is to buy a couple of islands and build giant bird cage type things on each one. Then create a no-fly zone around the island. Oh, and get people in very high and exclusive places. We've had to do that all over the years to keep everything a secret, especially as the world started inventing computer technology and satellite imagery. It's not as easy as taking out an entire town anymore. Excuse me, girls, I need to get to the sink. We both moved so Ram can put his dishes away. Did you want to take that shower now? Sandra asked me. Sure, I say. She takes my hand and pulls me out of the kitchen. Ram, watch Raylene for a bit. But Ram tries to protest, but stops as he realizes it would be useless. I'm sure Sandra glared at him, and that probably had something to do with it. Sandra takes me upstairs to the washroom. Going inside, she pulls open a drawer in front of me. This drawer's yours. It should have been everything you need. Makeup, hairbrush, toothbrush, toothpaste, everything. If there are any other colors you need, feel free to use some of my makeup. It's in the drawer above. Darius said people bring your clothes over from his place. They're in the guest room next to my room. That should be all you need then. Have fun. Thanks. I start to follow her out of the room, but stop and go to the guest room. Not only are my clothes here, but the same dresser is too. I pull out a change of clothes for the day, jeans and a spaghetti strap shirt. Going back to the bathroom, I close and lock the door. Stripping from my clothes, I go to the shower and turn it on, waiting for the temperature to be warm before I go inside to take my shower. Once I'm done, I get the clean clothes on. The jeans take a bit of work as my legs are damp in some spots. Wrapping my hair with a towel, I leave it there as I put my makeup on. Going through the drawer, I find all of what I need, unwrapping the new items and setting them out on the counter. Now that I know that this is here for me, I don't feel bad about using them yesterday. I look up to examine my outfit and face in the mirror. Immediately I notice that the bruise that should have been there is not. Finding it weird but not questioning it, I'm just thankful that Raylene didn't see it when it was there. Testing the liquid foundation color against my skin, I determine it matches before I cover my face in it. I brush a loose yellow powder on top of the foundation to prevent a shiny look. I apply black mascara on my upper and lower lashes until all the fine hairs are covered. Deep blue shadow lines at the top of my higher lashes, spreading on 2 lighter shades for a base, and highlight my eyelids. I then blur the layers together to get a smooth procession. A light pink staining gloss goes neatly onto my lips. Looking over my face, I check for anything I might have to touch up. Not finding anything to fix, I go back from the mirror to examine the look all put together. A couple of frantic knocks beat at the door. Alexa, are you dressed? Immediately I become suspicious of the question and her tone. Yeah, why? A pause in my answer. I open the door to make sure she's still there. She hesitates. Well, Raylene was playing with Crystal, and then Crystal had to go to the washroom outside, and Raylene begged me for her to go with us, and I only looked away for a moment because I saw the same dragon you did earlier, and then I looked back and both Raylene and Crystal weren't there anymore. My heart beats faster and I start to panic. What? Which direction were you looking in? I slam on my shoes. Left, towards the entrance. At her words, I leap down the stairs. Running through the living room and the kitchen, I swing open the door, jumping the 4 stairs to the ground, turning on a dime. I run around the deck area. I pass Ram, facing the other direction. A little distance away, he's calling their names out. Scanning the area around me as I run, I try to find any hint of where they may have gone. I fear what may have happened to her, whether a dragon may have picked her up or some other beast may have put her claws into her. Briefly, a thought of what Darius may do when he finds Raylene and I have gone this far away from the house. My thoughts are scattered as I search frantically. The trees open up and immediately I notice something moving on the hill a ways away. Focusing as I get closer, I see it's Raylene. A smile creeps on my lips, knowing nothing has happened to her. Raylene! 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 The little girl stops and turns around the second time I call her name. She waves at me from the top of the hill. It takes me a minute to maneuver in between the barbed wire fence and make it up the hill. I hug Raylene as I get to her. Why did you run off? Sandra said she was looking after you, and then you disappeared. I remember halfway through my sentence not to be harsh sounding with my tone. I was chasing Crystal. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. Her eyes start to water and her lips puff out as she starts pouting. I hug her. It's okay, just don't do it again. It could be very dangerous for you to run off now. I think we should show her exactly how dangerous it could be. I jump at Darius's sudden arrival behind me. There are things out there that will kill you or eat you. Old friends are now enemies and will try to kidnap you. The same goes with you, Alexa. That's why you weren't supposed to leave the house. My ears start ringing. Darius's lips are moving slightly, but no noise is coming from them. Raylene covers her ears and whines. Are you okay? I kneel to inspect what could be wrong with her. She stops suddenly, uncovering her ears, and looks at me for an answer to what happened. I was calling Shale, Darius explains. Vampires can communicate with each other by talking in a higher pitch than what most humans can hear. Children can hear the high pitch, and sometimes when concentrating hard enough, they can make out some of the words. However, the older the human gets, the less likely they are to hear anything due to the everyday damage done to the ear. So while a child can hear us, a middle-aged human might not hear a thing. A human of your age might just hear a high-pitched ringing. Shale comes from where I had. He runs faster than I'd ever seen him run before. When he stops, Shale stands beside Darius. Darius orders Shale, take Raylene back to the house. Alexa, I'm going to show you around the farm. Can I come too? Raylene's big voice pipes in for her defense. I'm bored, and Crystal doesn't want to be inside either, and I promise I won't get into any trouble. No one says anything for a moment. I look to Darius. That's up to Alexa, I guess. I don't see why not, as long as the things we see are age appropriate for her. I try to make sure that Darius gets the point that I don't want her seeing some of the things I have already been introduced to. Alright, so I guess Raylene is staying for the child-proof version. Shale, we won't be needing you after all. You can get back to what you were doing. Oh, and please tell Ram and Sandra I would like to speak with them later in private. The undertones of his sentence sound a bit threatening. I can't help but feel guilty about getting both of them in trouble. It is partially my fault, and I feel guilty for Raylene's part in it as well. My only hope is that they don't get in too much trouble for it. Shale looks in his eyes. Shale's look in his eyes dampens my hope. Are you sure you don't want Raylene coming back to the house, or at least have someone extra around just in case something happens? He looks to me for help. Maybe he should come. At the very least, it's one more person to keep up with the amount of energy she has. Darius nods his head almost reluctantly. You can stay. A silent victory and thanks is exchanged for me and Shale. And I guess since we're already here, we can show you why the Griffin Cub was headed over here. It's just over the top of this hill. Darius takes my hand and leads us all the way to the top of the hill. Coming to the peak, an old barn shows itself with each step. The grade wood is broken and torn apart in a couple of areas. Scorch marks are burned into the grass in brief lines. The ruined destruction of a nearby newer-looking building lays about 50 meters away from the old one. Crystal breaks away from Raylene. Taking a running jump, she uncurls her wings out from her sides and opens them completely. She fumbles when she tries to flap her wings and takes a second jump, keeping off the ground for no more than 3 seconds. Her third attempt has her gliding to the bottom. The little griffin trips up as she lands, rolling to a stop after a couple of 360s. Not missing a beat, she gets back onto her feet and continues as if nothing had happened. Trying to catch up with the small creature, Raylene runs down the hill. Crystal ducks into an opening in the wall. Raylene halts as she hits the wall, cushioning the blow with her arms. She goes onto her hands and knees with the purpose of following her pet. Lifted into the air from her waist, Shale prevents her from disappearing into the hole. He says something to her that I can't hear, and puts her down a moment later. The little redhead grabs hold of his hand and drags him to the door. He opens it for her and follows her inside. The moment the door is opened, it's like a seal had been released. Loud noises ring clear as day. This sound is familiar to the one that I heard from Crystal yesterday, except more confident, loud, deeper, and it starts as more of a roar than a mew. We follow after the pair through the door. The silhouettes of the creatures become clear and defined as my eyes adjust to the darkness. 5 grown versions of Crystal go about their business, ignoring us as we come in. Gawking at them, I faintly think that they aren't as big as I thought they would be, remembering the sizes they are depicted in movies. Their true body size is only that of what a real lion would be. Massive feathered wings bulk up their width. Others are in the barn as well. They look human as they go about their duties. A man is cleaning out a stall with a pitchfork and another grooming a griffin with a brush. The only woman is picking out meat in a bucket and tossing it into the mouths of the hungry griffins. Her bloody hand goes in and out of the pail without hesitating. The woman turns around first. Seeing her eyes makes me realize she isn't fully human, or human at all. Slit yellow cat eyes examine us before she gets back to feeding the animals. Crystal went to see her mother. We'll probably find her over there. Darius points to the one in the corner lying down. Her attention is something else. Darius points to the one in the corner lying down, her attention on something out of our view. Raylene heads over there, and I follow after her. Halfway there, a male that had been grooming one of the griffins steps in my way and stops me. Don't go over there. A mother always protects their young because he glares with black and brown eyes at Darius' direction, took one of her babies. She'll be more cautious and protective than ever before. The female walks calmly over to the mother and Raylene. Little miss, please don't go any closer to the griffin. Raylene turns to the female. Crystal comes out of the stall and rubs herself on Raylene's leg. I can see the griffin mother tense up. Her body moves into a defensive position. A growl warning rumbles in the air. Raylene bends over and picks up the attention seeker. Both the mother griffin and the female pounce at the same time. In a blur, Raylene disappears. Shale pulls Raylene out from behind a wall and comes back towards us. The mother griffin roars her anger and readies to pounce again. Darius picks me up and escorts me bridal style out of the barn. Shale follows with Raylene, setting Raylene down the moment we get outside. He turns around and slams the man door shut, bracing against it while it shakes and almost busts from the griffin ramming into it. After a few minutes, the banging stops, and Shale cautiously lets go of the door. He waits a couple more, just in case she tries for one last ram. I don't want to think about how the griffin attendants may have fared from the attack. I can only hope they are all right. I look Raylene over from our distance apart. She doesn't look like she has any marks on her, though she might have some. She doesn't look like she has any marks on her, though she might have something sore from Shale's quick movements. The griffin in her arms is licking her arm gently. The arm under my legs drops. Reaching the ground, I catch my balance. I turn to face Darius. I think we should get away from this place. Looking over to the other buildings, I see many possibilities to explore. Maybe one of the other buildings would work. As long as a repeat of this event doesn't happen, it should be fine. Shale's voice answers me instead of the male I had intended. I don't think that would be a good idea. Maybe if we went to the pond instead. There shouldn't be anything there that will freak out if we even get to see anything other than a nice view. He looks to Darius for approval. Darius nods and starts walking away. I start to follow him. A small hand grabs onto mine from behind. Raylene walks happily along with no sign of any traumatization from the recent events. She plays with Crystal as the little griffin follows after her like a puppy. Shale comes up on the other side of me. I ask him, so what's in those buildings? He takes a moment to respond. This used to be an old slaughter farm before we took over. Shale stops his explanation at that. He doesn't need to continue because my assumptions and imagination take over. The buildings are probably filled with slaughter equipment, blood everywhere, and the stench of rotting death. Okay, so definitely nothing we want to see. Thank you for getting Raylene out of there, I tell him sincerely. You're welcome. It was no problem. He smiles. We walk back up the hill. Everyone keeps their silence. Heading back the way I'd come, we stop before we get to the road between the trees. Darius leads us to the left. We walk along a fenced-in area. It looks like an area that would have kept in the livestock. We head down an unmarked path that opens up in the trees. Deep green and brown surround us. Crunching is heard and felt beneath our feet as we walk on top of fallen leaves. I step over a fallen tree limb and stop momentarily to help Raylene over it. Crystal jumps up, barely making it up most of the way. She uses her claws to pull herself up the rest of the way. We continue through more trees. Off a little way, I can see the pond once we get closer. It's just a regular pond, murky water, croaking frogs, and water plants. To the far right, leaning over the edge, is a scaly creature. Its long crimson neck is tucked down and drinking from the water. We get as close as we dare. Setting Raylene in front of me, I crouch down, embracing her, and rest my chin on her shoulder. There's something peaceful and awe-inspiring about watching this magnificent creature, something I've only felt an inkling of before when watching animals in a zoo. 2 horns on top of its head, scales like a reptile or adorn its entire body except for its wings. The wings look like they would resemble more of a bat's wing if they were stretched out rather than tucked into its sides. The tail curls around and lies on the ground. Claws and long tendon-like fingers are all I can see of its legs. The dragon stops drinking and looks up, raising its neck to be level with Raylene and me. It stares at us. I stare back, mesmerized by the creature's gaze. Looking down and continuing with quenching its thirst, the dragon seems to prefer to ignore that we are here. I stand back to my full height. Just as I do, the dragon stops drinking again. This time it backs away from the pond a couple of steps. Lurching forward, it unfolds its massive wings and takes off, sweeping across the pond and veering sharply up, disappearing over the trees. It leaves behind a mist of pond water, cooling our skin and dampening our clothes. Raylene's facial expression is filled with wonder. What was that? A dragon. More specifically, that was an American dragon. Shale gets interrupted. I think we've had enough sightseeing for one day. Shale take them back to the house, Darius instructs. Don't let them leave again. I ask him, wondering, where are you going? Hunting. It's about time I have some fun, and I need to be feed. There is something sick about the way his eyes light up and his mouth twists into a grin. But I want to see more animals. I want to stay outside some more. Raylene whines to Darius. No, you will go inside and you will not whine, and no complaints, Darius snaps back. Anger and protection rises up in front of me. Anger and protection rises in me. Darius, you can't. I'm cut off when he's suddenly in front of me. You will not tell me what to do. As for the brat, I let you have her so I can take her away from you. One more outburst and she will be gone. He motions to Shale. Prepare her. When I come back, I will be changing her. He's gone a split second later. Brunch has moved to show the route he went. Let's go back to the house. Shale puts his hand on my shoulder, a gesture I'm sure is meant to comfort me in some way. It doesn't help me feel any better. Wet clothes get cold quickly. He turns and walks away. I look down at Raylene and the tears that are brimming in her eyes. I sigh at the sight of her and the reason why she got that way. I bend down to her and pick her up. She buries her face into my shoulder. Making the ride as smooth as I can for the upset little girl, I jog to catch up with Shale. I walk behind him the rest of the way to the house to save myself and Raylene from any concern he may have. Along the way, I find her body losing its tension. Her breathing evens out, the signal to me that she's falling asleep. If she isn't asleep already. We're just breaking through the trees when Ram spots us. He shouts something behind him, and moments later, Sandra comes out of the house running. I have to switch Raylene's support from 2 arms to 1. With my free arm, I lift my pointer finger to my lips in a motion to keep Sandra quiet long enough to get her attention on the sleeping girl. She stops in front of us. She's sleeping? Sandra whispers while she points at Raylene. I nod, just as quiet as she directs her next question at Shale. So, how much shit are we in? He looks back at her. What do you think? Darius is furious and wants to talk to you both in private later. You shit. The sentiment is said by Sandra and looks to be felt by Ram as well. Do you think you can look after her for a few minutes without losing her this time? I have to talk to Alexa. Shale jokes. No one laughs as he says, too soon? A little. I'm sure she'll be hungry anyway. It's about lunchtime. Sandra speaks cheerfully and confidently, but she looks hesitant. Either way, I need to talk to Shale just about as much as he needs to talk to me. I bring up my one arm and pat the sleeping girl on her back. She moves only slightly. Swiping my thumb against her cheek brings her to full awakeness. Drowsy eyes look at me. Sandra and Ram are going to take you and Crystal for lunch now, and I'll be in there in a few minutes. Shale and I just have to have a little talk. Okay. She turns as much as she can in my arms. What's for lunch? I put her down so she can go with them. While they walk away, I can hear the small talk between the two of them. A little ways away, she calls for Crystal to follow them. I watch them walk out of sight before turning to Shale. So, Darius is going to change you into a vampire tonight. It's probably going to be extremely painful. Once reborn, you're going to be Darius's queen and rule with him over this region, he says bluntly. Any questions? I stare at him for a moment. Yes, why is everyone so blunt about everything? He chuckles. Because this is our life. It's what we're used to. Someone being supernatural or getting turned into one or being cursed or anything of the such is normal to us. Anyway, would you rather we all lie to you or take a long time to tell you something? Or would you rather we tell you straight up and you get to spend all the time we would have wasted asking questions? Thinking about it either way, I have to hear about it anyway. At least when he's straight to the point, I don't have to weed my way through information overload. Yeah, I guess so. So where's my choice in all of this? You're dating Darius. That was your choice. Don't worry, once you become a vampire and you get the hang of things, he'll let you have some say in some things. Shale speaks as though he knows this is fact. And what if I don't want to become a vampire? I ask curiously. He shakes his head. Tough, you're going to become one anyway, so you might as well go along with it. What would be so wrong with it? You gain so much: increased speed, strength, hearing, taste, feelings, touch. You age slower. Why wouldn't you want that? The world we are making isn't going to be a friendly place for humans for too much longer. So you're going to be better off turning into one of us anyway. His reasons and rhetorical questions sound like a fair deal, but what he said after sparks my interest. What are they doing with the humans? Many demons eat humans or some part of them. Once they've had their feast, they will calm down and there will be some order. After that, humans will have little to fear, for those who are left at least. Shale sits down on the grass. I sit down beside him. What will happen to Raylene? Nothing for... Nothing for now. She's too young to turn. No one wants to be a kid for 50 years. And as long as you don't piss Darius off, he won't dispose of her. Once you turn her, though, he would have a harder time getting past you to get to her. Once you turn, though, he would have a harder time getting past you to get to her. So I guess that's another reason you should just go along with it. I take some time to ponder on what he said so far. His reasons are good, and it doesn't seem like being a vampire is anything like from the stories. None of the vampires I have known so far have been bloodthirsty or monsters. They've been fairly human-like. Is it anything like the movies? His confusion tells me that I need to elaborate a little bit more on my question. How someone is turned into a vampire. He rolls his eyes. Well, that depends on which version you go with. Most of them have partial truths to them. Others are completely wrong. Vampires' teeth are sharp, strong teeth. Eye teeth protract a bit more and more with age. Saliva takes on a venom-type quality with numbing properties in it. You'll have to ask Sandra about that if you want to know more. She's a whiz on the actual properties and biology of every supernatural out there. The blood is what contains the vampiric pathogen. I guess you can say it acts kind of like a virus once it gets into your bloodstream. It multiplies by feeding on dead or dying cells in your body. Eventually, it takes over and you become a young vampire. It changes more and more the longer you've been a vampire. I stop him by putting my hand up. The information is confusing. Wait, so you can be a vampire without dying? I thought you had to die to become one. Sorry, I guess that would be confusing. We have movies to blame for that one. Almost all of the shows these days require a human to die to become a vampire. The vampire cells get into your system. They feed off the dead and dying cells. Soon enough, your body is filled with these cells. The cells change you as they gain in numbers and basically kill the human in you. It is true that if a vampiric cell is introduced as you are dying, that you can become a vampire quicker. However, it is also riskier because you might die before you change and heal, which just makes you dead. While changing, you might notice little things. You might not get a paper cut when you would have otherwise. You'd gradually get more sensitive to sunlight, things like that. It gets better or worse as the vampirism takes over. Your skin becomes a little tougher, but will also light on fire if you go into the sun. Good enough explanation? Sandra could explain this so much better. She's old. She knows everything. She had to explain this 1,000 times. It was literally her job at one point. He pauses for my answer. Yeah, it's fine. So what actually works to kill or hurt a vampire? Pretty much most of what you've heard doesn't work. Holy water crosses dead man's blood. Garlic doesn't do anything unless you're allergic. The sun stakes through the heart. Well, mostly the sun stakes through the heart. Well, mostly anything through the heart. Incineration and decapitation do. We don't turn into bats. That was an unfortunate incident with an animus. I stop him before he can continue. Animus? An animus is a human-based supernatural that can transform into animals, not to be confused with a shapeshifter. Animus can only transform into animals, sometimes only one or two, and usually carry a trait from their transformations. It's rough on their body, painful to watch. Shapeshifters can transform into anything and anyone, and they don't get any changes from their transformations. Any other questions, he asked? I think about it and remember him saying something earlier. Yeah, you're out in the sun right now, so why aren't you on fire? Special sunscreen products and contacts. It's really simple, but it works. Technology has only gotten to this point in the last century. Before that, however, we just went out at night. Anything else? Shale asked. Not really. Not a moment after saying this, a question races through my mind. So what will Darius do to me tonight? That question was never fully answered. He said it would be painful, but it didn't sound like it should be painful. That, I guess, is kind of like the movies. He'll feed on your blood, mostly because he hates to see human blood go to waste, but partially to quicken the process. He could cut his tongue to cover the fangs in blood before the bite. He might have you swallow some of his blood. He might also cut you and himself and mix your blood openly, maybe some unprotected sex, maybe a needle injection shortly after if the infection was successful. The vampirism should take over and you start the transformation. It seems quite simple for what he makes seem like a possibility of vampiric infection. He stands up. I'm not ready for the conversation to be over, but he seems to be. How long until I change completely? I ask him quickly. It's hard to say because it's different for everyone. It's kind of like getting drunk. Administration of vampirism, your metabolism, size, how much blood was drained, weight, all determine how long it takes. My guess would be about a day before you start noticing things. My stomach protests the amount of time that has passed since my last meal. You need to eat. Go inside. I think you know enough for now, and I need to get going. I have some things to take care of. I agree with him for now. Over the past couple of days, I have been told a lot of information and changes. Yet, I still feel entirely clueless. It feels like he left out so much important information out of our talk. I want to know more. I need to know more. Well, thank you for the talk. The moment becomes awkward, and I avert my eyes and turn my head towards the house. Looking back to say my goodbye, I find I don't have to because he's not there. He's running towards the forest beside the shed. I walk to the house with a pit in my stomach and go inside to find Raylene.